In this video, I'll provide a live example of how reading structure, and if you haven't watched my last video that was an introduction to structure, you'll definitely want to check that out. But how reading structure can be one of the fundamentals to your trade system. It actually should be the fundamental to every trade system, because understanding the structure of the market and what has happened before and what's happening now is the key to having an edge on the market. So I'll just go through this example real quick. This will probably be one of my shortest videos. I say that, but this could be 2 hours long. I think it'll be short though. So I usually start scanning nowadays in the crypto market at the daily, and I look for structure setups. And this is an example of a structure setup. So it had a move here, and as it was declining, I've been watching IOTA to see if this structure would maintain. So I start on the daily, and this is the first sign that it was potentially maintaining, and then there's a pullback on this day, and this is when I entered here today. So that looks to me that this potential run up here and this structure of this run up here is being maintained, this value. You also notice, and if we just do simple support and resistance, you notice I don't have any moving averages on here. I don't have my value channels. I don't have anything else. I trade with all those, and those help tremendously. But I just wanted to remove all that and just show you, just straight up looking at structure, how you could trade off printing out your charts every single day. You could end the day, print out your charts, and look at structure and trade that way very effectively. So what do we see here? So if we put a line here, this is a resistance point. There's that line, previous support becomes resistance, or previous resistance becomes support. That is true because the market participants believe it. You shouldn't believe it too much, but I'll get into that in another video. But we see here, as this structure goes up and then it pulls back, this has been rejected twice, right around this area here. So this whole area here. So that's a good sign. And then it's been rejected a third time. So this was my first sign, and I was looking at lower time frames here, and we'll get into that here in a second. But this is my first sign that this structure was maintaining. So then I went to the 4-hour. And the 4-hour, I was looking to see what does it look like from a 4-hour trader's perspective. And we see here the same type of thing. Structure is holding up, at least from looking at it from a 4-hour perspective. And if we go back here, we're looking to say, does this run up here, this value run up, this run up of value, remember price is the most important thing. Does the price of this and the value that's been created in this run up, is it maintained by the market participants? And it has been maintained somewhat here. This is the first sign that we see that it's being maintained. And it took a while to get down, or it took a while to get through here. And I'll cover a lot of this stuff in my second structure video. But we see here it did have a run up, and it was rejected here. Now this is a sign to say, is there going to be a pullback, and is this value going to be maintained? And so far, and this is where I was starting to watch on lower time frames. So I went to the 1-hour time frame, and I'm looking for the same type of thing. So here I'm watching the 1-hour time frame, and I'm looking for, okay, what's happening on the 1 hour? Does the 1 hour look like a potential trade opportunity from a 1-hour trader view? And it does, from what we see, because just a simplistic view of the market is this is support, and that this is another area of support as well. And these two levels have held up. And that's actually where I entered here. I entered right here above this, you'd say, minor inflection support point. Now for my entry, I was watching the 15-minute chart, the 10 and 15-minute chart I was watching, but then I was looking for confirmation on the 5-minute. And I'll show you exactly where I got confirmation and why I entered. I entered probably earlier than most people would, but that's how I like to enter. I actually like to enter a little bit down here in this chop right here. But so I was watching the 15-minute just as each candle was closing, ensuring that this structure here, everything else was holding up, and it was going to stop at this area here. And what I was doing is on the 5-minute, and I was doing the same thing, just watching and saying, okay, is this area here, it's actually more like this, is this area going to hold up, going to maintain? It's still a question right now whether or not it's going to maintain based on this, but so far it's on a slight uptrend. It's actually not the best time to trade as well. It could be a good time too, because it's Friday 2:30 my local time. The Asian market will not go into Saturday for another 5 or 6 hours. So this is something, if the Asian market gets up and they actually want to trade on Saturday and want to trade this and everything looks good, BTC remains stable, maybe even rises a little bit, then this could be a good trade here. And just to get back to my entry, what I was watching for as we go through here, I actually entered at 8726. So we go up here, 8726. That's real close to where it was at. This candle here is where I entered. So I was watching for, this is a candle of pullback, and then it actually rose here. So if we go here, pullback, rise, 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 and then into, you could say, minor consolidation. I actually entered right on this candle right here. The second that I saw that, okay, this level isn't going to be tested, I entered right here just before this candle turned green here. So that's where I entered. So I saw this as stopping volume. Volume looked good, everything else. And where did I put my stop loss? If we go to the 15-minute chart, I put my stop loss down here. So it's down here. It's more like 6%. So I looked at this and said, well, if this whole structure breaks down, all of this breaks down, and this just gets blown through, then obviously this trade was not going to go in my favor. Obviously, if Bitcoin dumps right now, and if we look at the 1 hour time frame, if Bitcoin dumps, this is the last, what you would say, support area. And that means that if this breaks down, then it's most likely going to test this area as well. So I want to be out of that trade potentially. But if these two areas here break down, this area here and this area here, then it's really got nowhere but to go down, meaning that something fundamentally in Bitcoin, maybe Bitcoin dropped another 500-600 or something like that, and for whatever reason the market's just tanking. Well, if it breaks through these two structure points where it's been heavily rejected, then I want to be out of this trade, because it's not going to go down just 6%. It's probably going to go down anywhere from 10 to 20%. So that's the way I'm looking at this. And if we go to the daily and see if that's confirmed. So if this structure here breaks down, it's really got from here to here, which is about 20%, to hit another support level. You could say that this inflection point right here is a support level, but I put more stock into this one. So you could just say this whole range. So this whole range, this 5% range. So if it does break through that, it really has nowhere else to go but another 10 to 15%. And then I can re-enter down there. So the other thing I might do is, as the day goes on, I'll check in on this in a couple hours, and I might put a trailing stop. So if this does turn around and starts to move up here, maybe move this way, then I will put a trailing stop, just because we don't know what the weekend's going to bring or what BTC is going to do and everything else like that. So I thought this would be helpful just to actually show how I'm giving you half of the picture here, because this is half of the picture, because the other half of the picture is having another indicator, moving averages and value channels, candle reading and everything else on top of this that informed my trade decision here. But just structure alone, if I just maintain this at structure alone, here what we see in this trade, then this is a good example of how just understanding the structure of what's happening in the near past and translating that to making a trade decision can be very effective. Now, if I just draw a quick line here, we just draw a trend line. We can do the lows if we want to, but I do the closes. If we do the closes, this trend line here, for a good sign, if it's just a simple trend line analysis, a good sign is that if it does pull back here, is that it bounces around this range here, and then it continues its just maybe slow ride up. That's a good sign. Keep in mind, the markets move with the sun. It's the end of day here in a lot of areas, and the Asian market, like I said before. This is the other things you have to keep in mind, is that whenever you're trading, you're not in a vacuum. You have to understand the dynamics of the different time zones and the different opportunities for traders to exist. Of course, there's algorithms, there's bots out there consistently trading, but those they're not the big market movers. The algorithms and the actual trading bots are not the big market movers in this market at this point. They are in some of the actual assets, they are, but something like IOTA, something bigger, it's not. So keep in mind that you might not see big movements at certain times of the day just because there's not enough market participants, but you still might find entry opportunities. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's all. I think that this is like I said, one of my shortest videos. I wanted to provide a example of how straight up structure reading, just nothing else. It's not really fair, because I'm not suggesting that you should just straight up use structure alone to trade, because you're handicapping yourself with additional information that the market is providing you to do good trades. So I had other things here that informed my trade decision, but I really wanted to keep this very focused on, look, just looking at structure and just understanding structure can provide you with the high level overview that you need to have to understand what's happening in the market, to then find a trade opportunity. And then also add on top of that your risk reward. Notice I didn't talk about profit targets. I did talk about the stop loss, but I didn't talk about my profit target or anything else. But just straight up, if you're looking at how can I use structure to create a good trade entry system, this is a good example of that. Once again, if you have any feedback, leave a comment down below. You'll see links to tools that I use down below. Join the Discord group. There I share trades, things that I'm seeing in the market, everything else. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.